outside. Hey everyone, can I grab your attention? I'm really thrilled everyone could make it this afternoon. It's just a real honor to have John Andrews and Donna and his whole family here. I'm John Caldera. I'm the president of the Independence Institute. Without John Andrews, I would have no job, and Colorado would look a lot different than it does now, and so would the entire nation. And it's just been a real honor to name this space after John. You know, John founded the Independence Institute back in 1932, and it was his idea that Colorado needed a place that pointed to true north, to true personal and economic freedom. And he did something that was just so unique, which was to find the sweet spot between philosophy and politics. To find that spot that said, no, we're not directed by party, we're not directed by special interest, we're not directed by how we feel, we are directed by what the principles of liberty are, what the principles of the founding are. To name the place Independence Institute was a stroke of genius because it has kept us on track now for 40 years. 1985, I believe, is when you incorporated this place. And, you know, I think about this room, and it's just a room. It has 4 walls and an occasional leaky ceiling, but the magic that happens here is remarkable. For me, it reminds me, there was a record company in England, one of the first record companies, called My Master's Voice. You might remember the RCA thing with the dog looking in there. It's a company that owned that. And they needed to find a place to do, as technology grew, they needed to find a place that could accommodate an orchestra. And they wanted to record it. They needed to find a quieter place to do live radio shows. So they bought this place in a quiet neighborhood, and they didn't know what was going to happen, but somehow it kept going. They built it in the 30s. And they built it in a small place outside of London on number 3 Abbey Road. And when they built the Abbey Road studios, they had no idea that the Beatles would create the most impressive catalog of pop music. They didn't know Pink Floyd would be doing Dark Side of the Moon there. They had no idea that John Andrews would be probably smoking dope in a college room somewhere listening to that music. And it was just walls. But the magic that happened in those walls happened in these walls too. The goal is different than music. It is to free Colorado from oppression, from coercion, and to liberate the people of Colorado. I think about what Colorado would be if John did not create this organization. I would think about what it would be like not having somebody pointing true north. We wouldn't have term limits. We wouldn't have Tabor. We wouldn't have charter schools. We wouldn't have a flat income tax. We wouldn't have lowered that income tax to what it is now. We wouldn't have concealed carry. We wouldn't have privatization of services like RTD. And more importantly, we wouldn't have an army of freedom fighters that John has mentored over his career, including me. And like most of us here, John has been a professional mentor, but he and Donna and his family have gotten us all through, let's be honest, some really shitty times. You know, when I lost my daughter, they were there to pick Mara and I up. When my big man Chance came along to change my life, they were there to help me through it. When we got a divorce, they were there for us. And now we're happily divorced, and it's a wonderful thing. If only we're great friends, and if only we got divorced sooner, it could have saved the marriage. But the point being, they were there. And so it wasn't just a matter of politics. It wasn't just a matter of being a professor. It was a matter of being a mentor and somebody there when you needed them the most. And I am, like everybody else here, just so very, very grateful. And I wish we had something more than a room to honor you with. But you know, for a small price, you can buy the naming rights of the whole building. And I'm just thrilled. And I tell you what, I want to introduce a few folks, but first we have something under here. And where's Joe, our artist? Why don't you come on up here and introduce yourself? We have applause, but I don't see a person. He had to leave because he said, I remember actually he did. He had to leave. He said, because John Andrews is not really that important. So, yeah, why don't you do it? And Chance, could you come up here? I need your help. Would you tell us a little bit about who Joe is and what happened?
Hello, my name Olga Chance.
Ogre. No, your name is Chance.
Oh, my name Olga, Father Big Donkey.
I'm Ogre from Shrek. Oh, he's Ogre from Shrek. I'm Donkey. Why don't you let Kathleen say something now?
Yep.
Thank you, Chance. Yes. Well, my name is Kathleen Chandler, and I am really thrilled, obviously, to have Donna and John in my life. But Joe Sterliano, who is actually a good friend of theirs as well, who has been there many years through the Centennial Institute, is also a fantastic artist. So he painted a picture of John.
Take it down, Chance.
So, and we have a duplicate of it for you to take home. And this will now grace our presence right over there on the wall in Andrews Hall. So thank you so much, John.
Dave Copel, if you want to come up here. Dave has been with the Independence Institute for quite some time. And by the way, you do get a replica of this, so Donna has something to throw at when you guys are having some fights. It'll be good. Oh, I didn't turn that off. I did not. There we go. Dave Copel, take it away.
I am the only one left who was hired on the full-time staff of the Andrews era. The mysterious deaths and disappearances are something we're not going to discuss tonight. More than half a century ago, John K. Andrews Jr. was wielding his mighty pen as a speechwriter for President Richard M. Nixon. Then, when the unfolding Watergate scandal presented him with a choice between truth and power, he chose truth and became the first man in the Nixon White House to resign over Watergate. 4 decades ago, John and his brother-in-law David Devlin created the Independence Institute, only the second state-level think tank up to that point in America. And its purpose was to proclaim the eternal truths of the Declaration of Independence. Under John, the Independence Institute became Colorado's beacon for liberty. Today, so many wonderful ideas that John's Independence Institute was the first in Colorado to promote have become the law of our land. The people of Colorado twice elected John as a state senator, and his peers chose him as president of the Senate, partly because he successfully led the campaign for Senate Republicans to regain their majority. Every day in his 8 years in the Capitol, he labored as a watchman on the wall, defending truth, justice, and the American way. But he wasn't finished yet. Next, he founded a second think tank, the Centennial Institute at Colorado Christian University. Like the Independence Institute, the Centennial Institute is still going strong in a third generation of leadership after its founding by John. Many public policy organizations bloom for a brief period when led by the founder, but many fewer are so well-founded that they endure for the ages. While John Andrews, throughout his career, fought in the present, his eyes were always on the future to preserve the best of our state and nation and make them even better for the next generations. So the Independence Institute and the Centennial Institute became incubators not just for ideas, but also for new scholars and leaders. In over half a century of public service, John Andrews has fought the good fight, finished the race, and kept the faith. He has been a doer of right and not a hearer only. Today, we offer our own gratitude by naming Liberty Hall as Andrews Hall. But in a way, that's ridiculous. If we have a room that we upstairs we call Bald and Funny, and we could rename it the John Caldera Room, but it's kind of synonymous either way. So renaming this Liberty Hall for John Andrews is is not renaming but amplifying the name. Andrews Hall will remind all of us of our gratitude for the blessing of knowing John and having been helpers in his great mission of liberty. Thank you, John.
Without John Andrews, I wouldn't have gotten involved in politics. Without Mike Rosen, I would not have learned so many things. And I think about two great Coloradan mentors and educators, and Mike Rosen being one of our first senior fellows, and still writes for Complete Colorado today. I think of these two people as folks who have educated and given a home to free thinkers in Colorado for decades. And I'd hate to think what Colorado would be without Mike Rosen as well. Mike?
Thank you, John. Lozenge time. How many people here have had this terrible cough that doesn't stop for 4 weeks? I'm in the final stages of it, I hope. So excuse me if I wheeze a few times here, but I think you all know about John's prestigious background and a phenomenal resume and all the contributions he's made to the cause. I won't take you through that again, but I do have an interesting backstory about the genesis of the Independence Institute from its early roots. John, of course, started his career as a United States Navy submarine officer. So at 40 leagues below the surface of the sea, his career had nowhere to go but up from there. I've known John for just over 40 years, which is coincidental to the start of the Independence Institute, kind of. Before that, there was something called the Chavano Institute, which was a project of Hillsdale College out of Michigan, one of the great institutions of higher education that is not left-wing. And thanks to a little help from the Coors family, the Chavano Institute was created in Colorado, deriving its name from Mount Chavano in south central Colorado. And George Roach, the then president of Hillsdale College, actually had his roots there. And he became president of the Chavano Institute. The starting crew at the Chavano Institute, and this was before Jared Polis, Tim Gill, Pat Stryker, and Rut Bridges, the notorious Gang of Four. That was the crowd that tipped Colorado from red to blue. We had the Gang of Five at the Chavano Institute, and it was John Andrews and me and Alan Orcutt and Dave Devlin and Senator Hugh Fowler. And we were all vice presidents of the Chavano Institute. Now, the Chavano Institute was designed to be the conservative answer to the Aspen Institute. If you're familiar with the Aspen Institute, their mission is to introduce CEOs and other influential executives in the country to the virtues of leftist thought. And such CEOs were invited, usually to Aspen, to be regaled by all kinds of leftist thinkers. It was a successful mission, incidentally, and something that we are still suffering from. However, for purely capitalistic reasons, Wote senior executives are now backing away from that. A market message was delivered. Well, Chavano was launched with the same mission in mind, except we weren't going to go to Aspen. We were going to go to nice resorts all over the country and introduce these same kinds of CEOs to wonderful conservative thinkers like William F. Buckley Jr., Tom Wolfe, Winston Churchill Jr., and a whole bunch of others. I won't go through the whole roster. And the five of us really enjoyed what we were doing. For a variety of reasons, after several years, Chavano was subsumed back to Hillsdale College. And John Andrews decided we could use that root, the Chavano Institute, to create something different, which became the Independence Institute. John, of course, was the leader and president of that for years. I was one of the early fellows, although my radio career kind of kicked off then, and I wound up doing a lot more than that. And what blossomed from John's leadership was what the other John Caldera, inherited. And among other things, really, the Independence Institute became Colorado's version of the Heritage Foundation. And the Heritage Foundation is the most prominent, successful, effective think tanks in the country. And it's, I think, a great compliment to compare the Independence Institute to the Heritage Foundation. John, of course, went on to do miraculous other things in many different areas, from broadcasting to think tankery and the like. He's been my friend, my colleague, my inspiration, and the inspiration to so many people in Colorado. Now, this location that you now have, in not quite the shadow of the state legislature, but close enough for government work, is proud to be the showcase for one of Denver government's greatest achievements, and that is bollards and bicycles. And rather than fight City Hall, getting here today instead of driving, because Denver doesn't like cars, I live in the tech center, so I got on my bicycle at noon and got here just in time for this. By the way, anybody who commutes by bicycle in Denver, to say nothing of the weather, but just because of the traffic, is insane. The day will never come when that will be a significant vehicle for commutation in Denver or other places other than maybe Amsterdam. In any event, John, we are all so grateful for all that you have done for Colorado, and I'm proud and delighted to call you a friend.
Mr. Rosen was, of course, joking. He did not take a bicycle here. He took RTD. We've been talking a lot about Colorado. We also forget that what John started with the Independence Institute has turned into a national movement. It was John who, with the help of Jeff Coors and others, put together a little organization to try to get these fledgling state-based organizations together. And we were the second one, and then there was a third. The State Policy Network is now a network of over 65 different organizations. Because of what John started, in every single state, there is at least one Independence Institute there to point to true north and to be there for something that's not just for a politician, not just for a party, but to free the people of their state. And that impact is what I think we call leverage. The best part of what John created is that of building an army. And I see Shari Williams here, who also builds an army. I think took a lesson from that. Jeff Hunt here, who took Centennial Institute to great heights. Kathleen Chandler has been in charge of trying to bring people into the movement by trying to get them not just to complain and drink scotch at parties. That's my job. She got people to do things like get on boards and commissions. This is not easy work. But because of this, we have now 400 people on boards and commissions throughout the state of Colorado. These are the people who will become the leaders and the future politicians. I guarantee you in 6 years, conservatives won't be saying the same old question, why don't we ever have any good candidates? And the reason is greatly because of this lady, Kathleen Chandler.
Well, first of all, I have to tell you a really funny story because you reminded me of Hillsdale. So, John, when I first started working for him back in the day, it was when we started the Claremont Institute here in Denver. We tried to get that to come here. And here's this little old me, this was in the early 2000s. John, have you ever heard of a wonderful thing called the Hillsdale, their Imprimus? Yeah, he was the originator of the Imprimus. And here I thought I was trying to teach him something, so I felt so stupid, but nonetheless. I know. So, John Andrews, what can I say? I have to write this down because it's so emotional. I have known John since my son Spencer was 5 years old. And John has walked through so much with me personally, as John has attested to. He's not just our wonderful political mentor, but he's also a personal friend. He's been my second father. He gave me away at my wedding to Roger. My dad had just passed away, and he stepped right in and was that wonderful father figure for me. His mentorship has meant so much to me. John has prayed for me, cared for me, and even bought me a car radio. I was working with John, and I didn't have a car radio. I was so poor. And he's like, how can a woman who loves radio not have a car radio? And so for my birthday, the next thing I know, my car is gone, and it was in the shop, and he installed a radio in it. And that's when I was struggling. But you know what? He loved me for who I was, and he saw a potential. So John has bailed me out of many tight spots. He's given me jobs, and he showed me to be the ultimate statesman. I don't know about you, but there aren't very many John Andrews out there who are ambassadors and statesmen in the State House who see the art of persuasion and the ability to have somebody step closer to you and for you to take a step closer to them so that as you talk to them, you're not dragging them bloodied and bruised to your side. And there is an art to that, and I just thank him so much for teaching me. He has shown me how to willingly take those people to my side. And I'm in awe on his faith and his love for Jesus Christ, his endurance in politics, his wit, his humor, his sharp mind for numbers. If you notice, he's probably taking out a piece of paper right now, writing something down. He always carries a little thing in his pocket. And most of all, his understanding of the human condition. We are all lost, and we want to be found. Thank you, John, for everything that you've done for me. And now, I think Donna needs an award too, but that's another story. You both are amazing, and I am blessed more than I can ever imagine by your friendship. And so I just want to say a heartfelt thank you for everything.
All right, so before John gets too big of a head, let's ask him to come up and say a few words. And again, I think about legacy and I think about permanence. I don't know if you thought 40 years ago that when you created this little organization, we'd have a footprint within throwing distance of the Capitol. We'd have guys like Fred Holden who helped change the political battle for Tabor and for the budget, that we'd have this influence. And more importantly, that we're bringing new people in, that we're building a way to talk to younger folks and teach them about the ways of a philosophy that honors the individual. And so, John Andrews, please, welcome to Andrews Hall.
Oh, John Caldera, my dear, dear friend, Mike Rosen, Dave Kopel, Kathleen, sweetheart. How blessed we are, the Andrews, to have such friends and comrades in the noble struggle for liberty and limited government that is ongoing close to 250 years now, and the best is yet to come, even as we may be braced that some of the worst are yet to come. For now, I feel like Lou Gehrig when he retired from the Yankees, and he said, I am the luckiest man in the world. In my case, I'm lucky because they threw a heck of a wake with lots of my very best friends, and I got to attend. I'll carry so many memories away from this occasion. One will be, John, that I never knew there were not just 4 Beatles, but we should say 6. John, Paul, and Ringo. Thank you for that. Well, I never dreamed when the phone rang in 1981 and my friend and political mentor, the late State Senator Hugh Fowler, said, John, I know about your love for Imprimis, and Kathleen, I didn't found it, but I became the editor, and we took it past 100,000 now to 2 million. Too many of them are in your mailbox, I guess, Mike. I apologize for that. Hugh Fowler said, Andrews, let's get together and do some conspiring about how to bring the Hillsdale message to the high country of Colorado. That led to the Chavano Institute, whose story was so expertly related to you by our friend Mike Rosen. And I didn't dream that out of the 4 years that Chavano was in Colorado would be born on the 1st of June, 1985, what is now about to be 40 years old and with a proud, proud tradition of one of the first trees whose seedlings are now all across the country, represented by that state policy network that John described to you. Donna can well remember, I'm sure, how many months I would come home and have to say, no paycheck this month, honey, but here's an IOU. It's going to be worth something someday. Tina, Jennifer, Daniel, my wonderful children, kind of grumbled that they had a tougher time in show and tell at Dry Creek Elementary School. Other kids could say, my dad's in business or my mother's a lawyer. Jennifer, Tina, and Daniel had to say, my dad runs a public policy think tank, at which time the Inquirer was no more well-informed than they were to begin with. It was a form of soft child abuse. Tina, Jen, Daniel, thank you for putting up with it. Our grandson Ian, of whom we're also very, very proud, you never had to experience that, Ian, but loved having you tag along with me at Western Conservative Summits year after year. Great, great memories. John, you said something that we should all keep well in mind, that there is a sweet spot between politics and political action and the underlying bedrock of ideas that is explored philosophically, the sweet spot between politics and philosophy. And that's what think tanks are doing, really. Looking at our own beloved state of Colorado, we have a competitive two-party system, thank God, not as competitive as it needs to be. It swims against the tide quite cheerfully when there is a national red wave, as there was last election. The majority party in Colorado, the Democrats, if you ask them to help defend liberty and limited government, they want none of it. If you ask Republicans to help you do that, they're of goodwill, but they can't figure out how. I guess they can't find their backside with both hands on a good day, John. Sad to say. Mark Hillman, Bob Beaupre, Matt Needler, others who have held elected office, you've been through this. You got your baptism of fire. But in the very first of the Federalist Papers that helped tip the balance in the 13 new states for the ratification of the Constitution, 1787, 88, 89, in the very first of the Federalist Papers, Alexander Hamilton said that there is a vital question whether good government can be achieved by reflection and choice, or we must leave it to accident and force. That question is yet to be fully answered. Reflection and choice, or accident and force. On the side of reflection and choice, you have the Heritage Foundation and the whole constellation of policy institutes and think tanks in Washington, D.C. and across the land. You have the 65 institutes of whom independents can be proud to have been among the very first, dotted across all 50 states through the state policy network. Working on the answer to that question, can human beings govern themselves by reflection and choice, or must we leave it to accident and force? On a daily basis, that is getting hammered out in the important work that goes on in this building. What is freedom for? In our struggle to preserve freedom, to expand it, to reclaim it from the tentacles of government, we don't ask ourselves often enough, what is it for? What are we going to do with it, with the measure of it that we have, that ennobles our memory and our legacy that we leave for the future? Another question, are we fit to be free? Is there something so perverse, so crooked-grained, as it's been said, in the timber of human character that we're going to get in our own way and squander the freedom that was so preciously bequeathed to us by heroes of the past? Can reflection and choice achieve government that we can be proud of and secure in? What is freedom for? Are we fit to be free? I can't say for certain, but I think among the 200 or so nations of the world, there's only one national anthem, only one, and that's ours, that ends not with a statement, but a question. Think about it. Does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? That is the open question that we are together, and with so many like-minded that couldn't be joining us this evening, that's what we are struggling to answer in the affirmative. The work is never done, but what a joy, what an honor, what a privilege, what a thrilling job description to be part of the American tradition that is working to answer that question in the affirmative, day by day, year by year, decade by decade, and into the centuries. Our friend, former U.S. Senator Hank Brown, put me onto some scholarship years ago that led to my first book, Responsibility Reborn. Scholars find that around 250 years, the actuarial tables run out for great nations. They may not cease to occupy space on the map, but their greatness, the sun has begun to set upon it. Is that going to be where America is as we mark 250 years of independence under the Declaration of Independence with the help of the Independence Institute a year from this summer, July 4th, 2026? Does the Star-Spangled Banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? It is up to us how blessed we are to be struggling in it, and how great to have a brotherhood and sisterhood with whom we can link arms like the people in this room and go forward to be worthy of the legacy that has been left to us. This party hasn't been all that you led me to believe it would be, John. I seem to remember you saying something about an acre of red carpet and a sea of red MAGA caps. The reference was made to trumpet fanfare and a 40-voice chorus. Something was even said about a twice life-size gold statue. A stairway to come down? Are you kidding? No, I was supposed to have a golden escalator. Nice try, John. Thank you all for being here. Let's enjoy the fellowship as long as Andrews Hall leaves its doors open. I hope they don't raid us for a liquor license or anything anytime soon, John. Thank you all so very, very much on behalf of the Andrews.
When I inherited this job over a quarter century ago, there were some serious cultural issues at the Independence Institute. There was this level of professionalism and sobriety that we have worked diligently to scrub. So the bar is open, and let's show Mr. Andrews and family how we do it the right way. Thank you all for being here.